In the last two videos, we were writing these functions that work with raw linked lists. And I deliberately, in the last two videos, wrote every function using an iterative design pattern. So using loops to iterate over the list, maintaining a pointer to a specific node, and then walking that pointer through the list as I went, and then stopping when the pointer reached the end of the list or until it reached whatever node I was searching for. And so I think the overarching theme of the implementations in the past two videos, the iterative implementations, was the use of loops. And of course, that breaks down a bit further. I'm using a loop and assignment statements to modify my node pointers. What I want to do in the next three videos, starting with this one, is rewrite all of those functions using only recursion. So I actually want to completely avoid the use of loops. And it's true in this course, there will be times when you are asked an exam question where you are told you're not allowed to use any loops on anything. And if you know me, you know that I really don't like questions like that if I can avoid them. There is a certain point where I have to ask them to force you to use certain patterns to make sure that you know them. And we're going to see something next week as well that is a way of, I guess, replacing regular loops in certain contexts. And in general, though, it's worth considering, exam questions are always very synthetic. In general, it's worth considering that I think it's a healthy programming practice to combine iteration and recursion. There are programmers out there that can use iteration but are somehow afraid of recursion. And that results in them writing really weird, clunky code in cases where recursive code would be nice and elegant, but they don't want to use it. And I suppose there are also programmers out there that are really comfortable with recursion, but are afraid of iteration. And as a result, they often write really clunky code when an iterative solution would work better than a recursive one. So a healthy programmer can do both. They can combine iteration and recursion and just choose whichever pattern works best for the application in which they are working. But the reason that I have broken down these videos into a set of entirely iterative solutions and a set of entirely recursive ones is that I know that I'm sort of fighting against the current here. I know that by the time you've reached this point in CSC 116, especially if you took CSC 111 first, you probably are pretty comfortable with iteration, with writing loops for things. And you're probably still a little bit uncomfortable with recursion. We've used recursion before, but not as much as we've used loops. And as a result, maybe you have a little bit of a bias against using it. And so I really want to have three videos that showcase the strengths of recursion when we're working with a problem that has some inherently recursive structure. And as I mentioned before, I believe that singly linked lists are an absolutely prime example of a case where recursion can shine. So in this video, what I'd like to do, I've got the same testing code that I had in the previous sequence. In this video, what I would like to do is write the print list function recursively. And then I want to implement this other function that wasn't present in the previous sequence, because the implementation for this iteratively is truly nightmarish. We have to use some auxiliary data structure if we want to implement this iteratively. And then later, in the next two videos, I want to implement insert at end, and then count elements and sum list, and then eventually copy and filter using a recursive design pattern. And we saw in the last video that copy and filter can be done iteratively. If we want to do it in the, I guess, the fast way, to avoid the computer using up extra time, we have to write an iterative solution that is really nasty. So it's not just ugly and long, but it's so complicated that there's a lot of places that bugs could show up. What the point I eventually hope to prove is that if we leverage recursion in the right application, so for the right tasks, recursion can produce amazing results. It can be fast, and it can also really save us the headaches of debugging that we might have with complicated iterative solutions. I should also observe, though, something that might come up in some later course that is explored further. It turns out that anything you can do recursively, you can do iteratively, and essentially vice versa. And so it turns out that secretly, the beauty of recursion is actually just the result of the compiler and the way that the language works, the way that function calls works, covering up something that you might even argue is a certain form of iteration. But that's fine. We like abstraction and encapsulation in this course. If recursion turns out to just be some abstraction for iteration, then great. If it saves me time, if it produces elegant code, then great. So I'm going to begin by writing these two functions, print list and print reverse. And they're pretty much mirror images of each other. The print list function is supposed to print out every element of the list, starting at the first element and proceeding all the way to the last one. The print reverse function is supposed to print out every element with the last one and then the second to last one and so on all the way back to the beginning. And so they're mirror images. And strangely, I mean, the print list function in the iterative sequence was actually already done at the beginning of the first video. And I just use that as an example of the design pattern, the sort of standard loop that we use to iterate over lists, which would be to create a pointer, pointer, and then to start at the head of the list, and then just walk through every element of the list until the pointer is equal to null, or until some other condition is satisfied, as we saw in the insert at end function. I would now like to write this function without loops. And in general, when you write something using recursion instead of loops, you find that instead of statements like for and while, you discover a lot more function calls. And we're going to notice I'm actually going to write myself an extra function to help me with the recursive solution. That is not strictly necessary for print list, but it is quite helpful for print reverse. And for symmetry, I'm going to use it for both. And just like how when you write something with loops, you might choose to use 1 loop or 2 loops or 3 loops, depending on how you break the solution down. When you write something with recursion, you might write one function, or you might write several functions and have them all call each other. That's fine. You can add however many functions you want, as long as you end up with a solution that makes sense and that works. So before I do that, I want to observe the recursive property of a linked list, which is, notice I've drawn L1, the same list we've been using to test in the previous videos. I've drawn that up here on the right, but I haven't drawn in the head pointer the way I usually do. The head pointer, which obviously does still exist, so I still have to refer to the very first element of my list in main, the head pointer is special then. It refers to the beginning of a list. The case that I want to make is that from the point of view of a function, the beginning of a list is just whatever node you give it. If I hand you the node 17 and I say, please print out the list starting at this node, here's the beginning. Well, you print out 17, you print out 10, and then you print out 6. Great, because you were given a node. Do you really know that the node 17 is the true beginning of my list? Well, no. For all you know, there was another node before it. But do you care? I handed you the node 17 and say, start printing. And you can do it. If I hand you any node of a list, you can print every node of the list starting there, continuing all the way to the end. The list does have some well-defined end, but really the beginning is just wherever you choose to start. If I hand you the node 10 and I say print out the list starting here, well, you go right ahead. You just print out 10, then you print out 6, and then you've reached the end. So really, every node of a list is a beginning of some kind. And actually, I could go further and I could redraw the list. I could say, wait a minute. So in that case, if I hand you a node, like the node 17, what are you looking at? So I've given you a node. Well, the node would be an element and then a next pointer pointing to the beginning of another list. That's it. Because if I gave you the 10, that's the beginning of a list. If I gave you the 6, that's the beginning of a list. In fact, even if I just gave you a null pointer by itself, that's the beginning of a list. It's just the beginning of an empty list. So really, if I give you a pointer to any node or no node, I'm giving you the beginning of a list. And so while it's obvious where the end of a list is, really every node is the beginning of its own little sublist of whatever larger list that I'm working with. And so I can visualize a linked list in a sort of recursive sense. Here is a list. A list consists of, I guess, 0 or more nodes. So in the case of a list that has at least one node, it consists of a node followed by another linked list. Or in the case of a list that consists of 0 nodes, it's just a null pointer. And then that's it. And so in this case, what I want to use is that recursive property. I would like to leverage the fact that if you hand me any node, I don't care whether it's the true beginning of anything. If you gave it to me, I can print everything in the list starting at the node that you gave me. Okay, and then the question is, and I like to promote the idea when I write recursive functions of the function itself being sort of as lazy as possible. I want the function to try and do as little work as possible and get other functions to do as much of its job as it possibly can. And so I'll try and show that off as I write print list. I'm going to write myself a little helper function up here called print list r. The only reason I'm calling it print list r is to make it clear to anybody reading it that it's sort of a helper to the print list function. And it's going to print every element of a list, so I'm going to call it node p2. I'm going to say start node. I give you a node to start at, and you print every element of the list from that node onwards. So if I hand you a pointer to the 10, you would print the 10 and then the 6. If I hand you a pointer to the 6, you print the 6 and then you stop. If I hand you a null pointer, well then I'm asking you to print an empty list, and so you just print out nothing. All right, so the print list r function, I'll just say print the value in every node starting at start node. There, that's it. That's all the print list function is going to do. Okay, how do I print the entire list then? If you give me a head pointer, how do I print out the entire list? Well, this seems sort of easy. And you might look at this and say, well, why have I decided to break it down this way if it seems like such a trivial change? First, I say print out every node starting at the head node. And then I'll print out a new line. because I'm done printing out the entire list. All right. So I know it's an odd way of breaking it down, but as the programmer, I have executive discretion to decide how to break down my code into functions. Okay, so what is print list R going to do? It's going to print the value in every node starting at the node you gave me. Okay, so what are the cases? Well, if you gave me an empty list, how do I print out an empty list? Well, okay, so if start node equals null, well, that's sort of easy. I just do nothing. It's pretty easy to print out an empty list. I just do nothing. All right, well, there we go. I've already handled one case. So my print list function can now print out one kind of list. It's an empty list. Okay, what else? Okay, well, if start node is not equal to null, so if I get to line number 39, then start node is not equal to null. Okay, so how do I print out a list? You gave me a pointer to the 17. How do I print this out? Okay, well, I guess I can print out the 17. I want to do as little work as possible. So I print out the 17, and then I say, well, hey, I've printed out one node. Now I want to print out the rest of the list. Okay, so we'll try that out. So I print out the value of the node that I'm looking at. So I say start node, arrow element. And then I'll print a space. All right, so I'll print this node. Print this element. And now I want to print out the rest of the list. That is to say, the shorter list, so you gave me a pointer to the node containing 17. This node, arrow next, is the beginning of a new, smaller list. So I'd say the list starting at start node, arrow next. Okay, so how do I print the rest of the list? Well, I don't know how to do that. Am I supposed to use a loop? No, I can't use a loop. I have to use recursion. If only there were a function I could call that would take a pointer to a node, like start node, arrow next, the beginning of the rest of the list. If only there were a function I could call that could take a pointer to a node and print out the value in every node starting at that. Oh, wait a minute. There is. It's this one. So what I could do if I want to print the rest of the list is say, yeah, I'll just pop that into my inbox. I don't know how to do that, so I'll just have somebody else do it. Maybe the person who ends up having to do it is me, but I'll just defer that to some other function. I'll call a function to help me out with this. I think you'd agree that's a very healthy way of designing code using functions. When there's a function in your program that can do the job for you, just call the function. Sure, if it's the current function, that seems a little bit odd, but I am allowed to do that. We know about recursion. We know a function is allowed to call itself. And in this case, if I stare at this, I do think I'm making progress. I just printed out something, and now I have a slightly smaller list left to print out. And so if I call my function, it will then print out the next node, and then it will call itself on a slightly smaller list. And then that will print out the next node, and then call itself on this slightly smaller list, which is empty. And we know how to print an empty list. We just do nothing. And so we have now, I think, a functional recursive solution. We have a way of slowly chewing away at the problem, taking one bite at a time out of the problem, and then calling a function, in fact, the same function that we are writing, to do the rest of the job. We also have a way of knowing when to stop, a base case. So as I print, if you give me a large list to print, I print one element, and then I call myself to print the rest of the list. And then I print one more element, and then I call myself. And slowly but surely, the list that I'm printing gets smaller and smaller. And eventually, it is empty. And I know how to print an empty list. I just stop. All right, so there's print list R. And just to recap the logic that I used there, so my logic was, if you give me a pointer to a node, I print out the value in that node, and then I print out the rest of the list. And the idea is, okay, well then how do I print out this? Well, I print out this node, and then I print out the rest of the list. And then you give me the point, then I get the pointer to the 6, I print out this node, and then I print out the rest of the list. But the rest of the list is nothing, so I do nothing. All right, I'm going to start by just testing that code out to see how it went. And I'll just erase this crudely here. Okay, so let's see if we can test this code. Let's see if the list gets printed. Okay, so as usual, like in the previous sequence, we get a bunch of warnings. The warnings are just that there are a bunch of functions I have not yet implemented. But I don't need them because I'm not testing them in this video, so I'll just try running this. So I do recursive raw lists, I run it, there it is. I print the list out. And so you could look at that, you could look at print list and say, well, this doesn't look like any less work than a loop. I mean, the previous solution was only a few lines long. It was, I think, 3 lines. Whereas here, I've written a bunch of stuff. You could maybe agree that the comments don't count, but I seem to have more lines of code than I had before. I've just translated a loop, which was a bit more dense, into a bunch of function calls and a new function. And I think it's reasonable that your mileage may vary here. You might look at that and say, this isn't really any better. Fair enough. Let's try print reverse. I'm going to use the lessons I learned in print list with print reverse. So I'm going to try and write myself a little helper function. So void print reverse. And then it takes a node pointer, and it's going to be the start node. And the goal of print reverse R, the goal of this is print every element of the list starting at start node in reverse order. All right. And then how do I print the entire list in reverse? Well, that's easy. I just call print reverse R to print out every element starting at the head node, but in reverse order. And then I print a new line, just like I did above. And the reason why I think I broke this solution down into more pieces than I need to for print list was to produce a sense of symmetry when I get to print reverse. All right, so how do I print a list in reverse? And you actually might want to take a minute to pause the video and think about how you'd write this iteratively. Suppose you didn't use recursion. What would you do? How do you iterate over a list in reverse with a loop? If I have a pointer to this node here, I can only walk forwards, not backwards. Each node only contains directions to the next node, not the previous one. So if you're standing on the node containing 6, you don't know what came before it. So how do you print the list out in reverse? Well, with iteration, you could, for example, put every node in a vector or something. You could just make another data structure and then iterate over that in reverse. I feel like that's sort of cheating, though. How do I print the list in reverse with recursion? Well, let's think about this. Suppose I've got my node at the beginning, so let's say it contains 17, and then I've got the rest. There it is. There's my recursive interpretation of the list. One node followed by the rest. How do I print this list in reverse? Well, I guess what I want, if 17 is at the beginning, I want it to appear at the end of my printout because I'm printing a list in reverse. And then before it, I want the rest in reverse. And I think to myself, well, hey, the rest of the list is a little bit smaller than the list I started with. This is beginning to sound like something I could solve with recursion. I might even want to go up and get some inspiration from what I did up here. I'm actually going to steal this entire piece of code. So how do I print the rest of the list in reverse? Well, okay, so to print an empty list in reverse, that's pretty easy. I just do nothing. An empty list in reverse is easy. And then the question is, how do I print a list containing at least one element in reverse? And I've drawn myself a little sketch of what I need to do. You gave me a pointer to the first node of a list, and I would like that node to appear last. So the first thing I want to do is print the rest of the list in reverse, and then the node at the beginning. So I think, hey, actually, I sort of have that already. First, I print the rest in reverse. So I don't do print list R, I do print reverse R. Print the rest of the list in reverse, and then I print this element. And maybe that's it. If I think about this for a minute, maybe there's not much else I have to do. So if I just get rid of that, if I have the list, let's make a longer list for the sake of testing here. So 17, 10, 6, 187. If you give me a pointer to the beginning of this list here, how do I print it in reverse? Okay, well, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to print out the 17 at the end, but I haven't gotten to that yet. First, print the rest of the list in reverse. Okay, how do I print this list in reverse? Well, I'm going to print the 10 at the end, but I haven't gotten there yet. First, print this in reverse. How do I print this in reverse? Well, I'm going to print the 6 at the end, but I haven't gotten there yet. So first I print this in reverse. Okay, so how do I print this in reverse? Well, I'm going to print the 187 in reverse, but I haven't gotten there yet. So print the rest of the list, which is just empty, in reverse. How do I print an empty list in reverse? Oh, I do nothing. Okay, so I do nothing, and then I get back out here to the list of size 1, and I print out the first element of that, 187. Then I get back out here, and I print the first element of this list, which is 6. Then I get back out here, and I print the first element of this list, which is 10. And then I get back out here, and I print the first element of my original list, which is 17. And behold, I have the entire list in reverse. And so that's the logic that I want to use in my code. And I think I have it. I print the rest of the list in reverse, then I print out the element at the beginning. And what's astonishing about this, well, actually, let's see if it runs first. Before I'm talking a pretty big game here, but okay, so no warnings. Let's see if it runs. And it does. I'm able to print the list in reverse. And not only could I solve the problem with recursion, but look at how beautiful the solution is. Printing a list forwards and printing a list in reverse look almost identical. I've just swapped 2 lines of code. That's it. So even though printing in reverse is pretty horrifying iteratively, recursively, it is literally the mirror image of printing it forwards, which I think is the way it should be, because printing in one direction and printing in the other are fundamentally sort of the same thing, with just sort of a mirror image between them. And so I think already, just at the beginning of the sequence, I think there's some evidence to show the beauty and elegance of using recursion for a recursive structure like a linked list. Now, in the next 2 videos, I hope to prove that point further by showing that all of the other functions we've been writing are also really elegant with a recursive solution.